to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast, the longest-running Miami Dolphins podcast on the internet.
We're always in control, and when you say Miami, you're talking to Merkel, because we're the Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins #1.
Hello, Miami Dolphins fans. How are you today? And thank you for listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast on this Friday morning, January the 2nd. Happy New Year, everyone. Let's get off to a great 2026. And boy, do we have a ton, and I do mean a ton to talk about in the world of the Miami Dolphins as 2026, easy for me to say, started off with a little bit of a bang here as we got some news yesterday about the Miami Dolphins bringing on Troy Aikman as a consultant for the general manager search. We're going to talk about all that today, what it means. There's a little bit of misinformation out there. We're going to try and clean that up for you and try to just get to the nuts and bolts of this, of why Miami is taking this approach, why they brought in Troy, what Troy will do, what he won't do, and just sort of, streamline this, because I know there's a lot of information out there and it can be a little confusing at times. And we're going to talk about that on today's show. I will also give my preview and prediction for the Miami Dolphins Patriots game on Sunday as well at the end of the show. I know, look, they're out of the playoffs. That game doesn't mean much, but at the end of the show, we'll talk about it here for a few minutes as well. Like I said, hope everyone had a happy New Year's, had a safe New Year's. Just want to thank everyone for the support they gave us in 2025 here with our podcast and our website. Just let you know we will continue to strive to do our best and give you the best coverage of the team that we can in 2026. And we just thank you for your support, because we know there's so many podcasts out there, some about the Dolphins, some not about the Dolphins. There's just so many podcasts out there. We do thank you for providing us a few minutes each day to listen to our stuff. And we do appreciate you guys, and we don't want you to think we don't. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And let's get 2026 started off with a bang here with a good show today. And before I get to any of that, as always, a shout out to the sponsor of today's show, Caneswear. Everyone go to caneswear.com for the best and most affordable Miami Dolphins apparel on the internet. That's right, caneswear.com. If you need something for the Miami Hurricanes, who are in the semifinals here, and they got a game next Thursday, a big game against Ole Miss in the Fiesta Bowl. If you need something for the Miami Heat, the Miami Marlins, and of course the Miami Dolphins, and your Florida Panthers, your two-time Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers, go to caneswear.com. Check them out before any other website out there. They got the best prices. They got the most affordable prices. They don't have crazy, insane markups. So go to caneswear.com. They will have you covered. And if you're in South Florida, stop by their shop at 2655 South University Drive in Davie. Pop in. They have awesome stuff there as well. Caneswear.com. Shout out to everyone who's watching us at the I Am a Miami Dolphins fan Facebook page. If you're on Facebook, please be sure you are part of the I Am a Miami Dolphins fan Facebook page. And if you want to sign up for Dolphins Talk Extra, patreon.com/DolphinsTalk. You got to Sunday night to use the promo code DTXmas. DTXmas. Use that promo code. First month only costs $1. Then it goes up to $3. Whopping jump there, I know. But go to patreon.com/DolphinsTalk. And if you're watching me live right here on this Friday morning, and I see we got a few people here in the chat, what's going on? And leave us a super chat. Leave me a super chat. I will read your comment or question on the air and address it. Super chats are the best way to support this website and what we do. So super chats are open here on YouTube. They are appreciated. Let's get into the news. Troy Aikman, former quarterback for the Cowboys, Monday Night Football analyst these days, has been hired by the Miami Dolphins as a consultant only for the GM search. Let me say that again. Only for the general manager search. I love this news. I can't put into words how much I love this news. It shows me that the powers that be with the Miami Dolphins in their front office are open to outside feedback and are open-minded enough to change and not do the same old, which has gotten them in this rut of 25 years without winning a playoff game. They're bringing in someone from the outside. They're bringing in a new voice. they're bringing in and they're going to listen to somebody and take his advice. Maybe they will take it, maybe they won't, but they are at least open-minded enough to say, we might need some help here. Let's bring in a guy with a wealth of knowledge. Look, Chris Grier, for all of his faults, and Lord knows he had a lot of them, was very tied in around the NFL. He's one of those NFL lifers, 20 plus years in Miami. He knew everyone on all the teams in the front offices. He knew all the scouts. He could pick up the phone, make a phone call. People would answer. Chris Grier was locked in. Now, he might have sucked at his job and the results weren't there, but he was a football guy who was tied in to the league. So if he had to hire an assistant, if he wanted to talk about a potential head coaching candidate, he knew where to get the information. He knew who to talk to. He was a wealth of knowledge. So he's gone, though. So who currently with the Miami Dolphins has those types of deep league connections around the NFL? Ross is a real estate guy. He don't know his ass from his elbow when it comes to football. You got Tom Garfinkel. He came from the San Diego Padres. He's a baseball guy. He doesn't know this league circle stuff. Brandon Shore is great, but he's been in Miami for 16 or so years, but he's a capologist, finance guy. You got Marino. He's there, but he doesn't, talk to other teams. He doesn't talk to other people all around the league like that. Miami needs to hire a general manager right now, and they need a football mind. So bringing in Troy Aikman just makes all the sense in the world to help in this search, because Troy travels each week. He's in the buildings of damn near every NFL team. He's in the buildings in Philly. He's in the buildings with the Chargers. He's in the buildings with the Rams. He's in the buildings with the Chiefs. He's in the buildings with the Steelers. Everyone who's got a Monday Night Football game, he'd meet with these people. He'd meet with the coach. He's meet with the general manager. He's meeting with the people on those in their front offices of names you might not know, but he's in the building. He's talking to everybody. He's getting information to prepare to call the game on Monday nights, and just, interacting with all these teams and all their coaches and all the front offices. So why not use his wealth of knowledge and all of his connections in finding the next Miami Dolphins general manager? Troy can pick up a phone. He can pick up a phone, call the Pittsburgh Steelers and say, hey, look, you got this guy on your team. He's the assistant general manager. We might have a chance for him to come here and be a real full-time general manager. Tell me about him. What do you think? You worked with him for years. Like, he can pick up the phone and get that information. Where in Miami, Ross can't, Tom can't, nobody can, because they don't have the connections that someone like Troy Aikman does in his current role, which he's had for God knows how many years now. So you got Albert Breer of SI said that Miami's search for a GM is going to hit the ground running on Monday. Once the season's over Sunday night, they're going to start Monday morning, lining up interviews, which I'm sure they've already worked on some of the background stuff, even with Troy. And they're going to start, to talk to people, line up the interviews, and they want to hit the ground running to get this new GM in place. It's also been reported and confirmed that, yes, Dan Marino will also sit in and be involved in these general manager interviews. Dan is a consultant already on the Dolphins. I don't know what the official title is, but he's essentially there as a consultant. He's also going to be involved with Troy Aikman and everyone else of the powers that be with the Dolphins. Tom Pelissero of the NFL Network is reporting, which has been out there, Miami is looking for someone with a heavy scouting background, which, again, if you listen to this podcast, it makes sense, because there was, which I have spoken about at length, that report last month out of CBS from their NFL insider, Jonathan Jones, who does amazing work, that the Miami Dolphins are going to sort of have a co-GM approach, kind of, sort of. They're going to hire a general manager. He's going to have the title of general manager, but they're going to give some of the work that, some general managers do to Brandon Shore, who's been with the Dolphins for 16 years. He's going to handle the cap. He's going to handle the financial aspects of the job. He's going to crunch the numbers. He's going to have more of a voice in that part of the general manager job. So that report now, which was out there last month from CBS, looks very true. And according to Tom Pelissero, Miami wants a general manager who knows the on-the-field stuff, who doesn't need to know the cap so much or how to structure a contract as much. He'll work hand in hand with Shore, and they'll be on the same page, but they need someone who can, scout talent, who can run the draft, free agents, which players are good, which ones are not, which well, who should be cut? Who should we not cut? Who should we extend? This guy's starting to go, he's not the same player he was last year. He's starting to hit like a decline. They need a football guy. They don't need a guy who can handle the cap. They already got that, and he's very good at his job. So they want a football guy. Now, to be clear, and this was made clear also by Tom Pelissero, Troy isn't going to be the Miami Dolphins general manager. Troy's not going to come on as a consultant and be like, you know what? We met with everyone. I'm the best man for the job. And don't laugh. That does happen more than you think. The most famous one, which obviously is not even in sports, was when, and not to talk about politics, but, George W. Bush hired Cheney to run a search to find him a VP candidate. And Dick Cheney came back and said, I met with everyone. Hire me. It's like, that's not going to be the case here. Troy's not going to, sit and go, you know what? All these guys are clowns. You got to hire me. I should be that's not happening, because Troy has expressed in the past that he might want to someday be an NFL general manager. So that's why this is out there. It has to be made clear, because Troy has given multiple interviews years ago, not so much recently, that, someday he might want to be an NFL GM. So this is clear. Troy's just a consultant and just on the GM search. Troy is only here for the general manager interviewing process. So if they meet with 6 guys next week, and then a week from Monday they hire one, Troy's done. This time in Miami, send me the check in the mail. I'm done. It's over. So if Miami does fire Mike McDaniel, it's not like Troy will be involved in the head coaching search if they fire McDaniel. But I will say this, if they fire McDaniel, I wouldn't mind if Troy was involved in that coaching search, because the same people he knows he has going to help with the GM search could probably help a lot with the coaching search. He's watching these games through the eyes of a Hall of Famer. He knows what he's watching out there in the field. And how does this news tie into Mike McDaniel's fate? And again, I have no idea. I'm just telling you my thoughts. I'm just telling you my opinions here. I have no inside knowledge. I think, in my opinion, this news that Troy Aikman has been brought in as a consultant for the general manager search means Mike McDaniel's toast. Mike McDaniel is toast. Mike McDaniel, he can go out there Sunday, beat the Patriots by 50, ruin the Patriots, not let them get like a 1 seed. He can win by 50. I don't think it'll matter, because just use simple logic. You're the Dolphins. You just brought in Troy Aikman, an outsider with no ties to the Miami Dolphins, to help and be a consultant with the general manager search, where you're probably going to hire an outsider to be the new general manager. Well, if you hired an outsider to help with the search, you're going to hire an outsider to be the GM. Wouldn't they hire an outsider to be the head coach? See, this math isn't mathing for me here, that Mike's safe and Mike's going to stay with this news of Troy Aikman. I didn't think Mike was that safe, because it's clear his agent and his PR team and his managers and his little camp of people have been leaking stuff to these reporters like Rossini and Rappaport. Oh, Mike McDaniel. Stephen Ross loves Mike McDaniel. Says who? Because they all report the same thing pretty much word for word, which means it's all coming from the same source, Mike McDaniel's team. And it's like, and then this past week we had reports which now make a whole hell of a lot more sense. Dan Graziano of ESPN earlier this week, we're talking 3, 4, 5 days ago. No, it was on Tuesday. Right now it's Friday. He said, up until now, he's believed Mike McDaniel was safe, but now he's hearing the winds seem to have shifted a bit on that. Let's put 2 and 2 together. Troy Aikman works for ESPN. Dan Graziano works for ESPN. He probably knew about this Troy Aikman story to Miami as a consultant for days, if not weeks. Probably couldn't report it because he didn't want to blow it up yet. And the winds seem to be shifting. Yeah, Troy's going to go in there and say, probably say the obvious, because if anyone who watched the Monday night game between Pittsburgh and Miami a couple of weeks ago, fourth quarter, Troy's like, what the hell's Mike McDaniel doing? He's they're down and he's not, and they're taking their time. The clock's running. This game's almost over. It's not like he's trying to win. And then some of the play calling, what are you doing? You're trying to win. You're sitting here. Now you're running the ball. Like Troy, he just destroyed McDaniel. He clowned him on national TV. He made him sound like an idiot. He made him look like an idiot. And now Troy is here as a consultant for the Dolphins. And you got Dan Graziano saying the winds seem to have shifted a bit on that. Yeah, no crap. No crap. So that report now from Dan Graziano makes a whole hell of a lot more sense, and it is very clear today, more clear than it was on Tuesday when it was like, oh, that's a little bit of a confusing report there. So yeah, this makes more sense now with the Troy Aikman news. Again, Troy's not, as everyone's saying, Troy's just here for the general manager search, but general manager, head coach, sort of tied together. And as they're sort of having lunch, having a turkey club in between general manager interviews, Troy might be like, you guys got a head coaching problem as well, and he might just throw it in there, even though that's not kind of what he's brought here to do. From the Miami Herald and Barry Jackson, he said that talks between Miami and Troy Aikman, they began before that Miami-Pittsburgh game a few weeks ago, which Troy called on ESPN on Monday Night Football. So they were in talks prior to that, again, which makes it a pretty bad sign for Mike McDaniel, because if he knew he was going to be a consultant here, he goes into that game, he watches, he's like, what the hell is this coach doing? So this has been in the works here for a bit, and for well over a month, and it had been in the works prior to that game, like I said, last month. Now, I have said for weeks here, I honestly wish, I've said for weeks that I hope the Miami Dolphins, as they sort of restructure their front office, find a new GM, they go back to a power structure of have a football czar or a VP of football operations. You put whatever title you want on it. I don't care. That guy, he helps hire the general manager. He helps hire the head coach. The GM and head coach report to him. And this football czar, this, however you want to call it, he is the eyes and ears of the owner, Mr. Ross, and he reports to Mr. Ross. The general manager doesn't report to Ross. The head coach, he does not report to Ross. This guy reports to Ross because then you have a power structure that makes sense. And let him work with Shore. So, and if for me, Troy Aikman or someone like Troy Aikman should be in this role. Now, if it was Troy, I'd be over the moon. And I think he's perfect for this type of role. Let Troy work with Shore in finding the next general manager. And once they hire the general manager, let Troy Shore with the new GM work together on finding the next head coach, hopefully. And yeah, that's the power structure that works. And would Troy do it? I don't know. He makes a lot of money right now calling games for ESPN. But if you throw him enough money, and he might be interested in this. Again, he's wanted to be a GM before. This isn't a GM, or he's thought about possibly being a GM. But it's a good first step into an NFL front office to sort of tip your toe in the water, so to speak. And look, he can live in South Florida full time, have a comfortable life, and he's not responsible for the heavy lifting. He hires the guys who do the heavy lifting. Now, I've had people say, well, he's just going to mail it in. He's going to be lazy. He's not going to care. He's going to just take the money and not try. No, that's not what it means. It just means, look, Troy's on the road every week, traveling for how many months? September, well, pretty much in August, they start with preseason. So August, September, October, November, December, a few games in January because they got a few playoff games now. That's half the year he's on the road traveling. He might not want to travel anymore. He's got enough money. Troy got money. So, but if you pay him enough, he might be, you know what, I can live in South Florida. I have a short, it might be a new challenge for him. He's not going to mail it in. And again, it doesn't have to be him per se, but that's the power structure I want. Some other names, that I've mentioned, but there are numerous names who could do that sort of football czar role, like a Joe Banner, Peyton Manning, Tony Dungy, Bruce Arians, a respected NFL mind, a former coach, a former GM who knows what a proper organization is run like. Let them look over the GM and the head coach. Now, we've tried this before with Mike Tannenbaum, and we tried it before with Parcells before that. Just because it didn't work twice in the past doesn't mean it's not the overall right approach. Bring in an outsider, fresh ideas, new eyeballs on this, hire someone smarter and better than Tannenbaum and Parcells to be in that role. And just because you fail, just because you strike out once, don't mean you don't go up 3 innings later and try to get a hit that time. Yeah, those 2 times it didn't work. Parcells, he wasn't even brought here by Ross. He quit under Ross, but he wasn't brought here by Ross, but Tannenbaum was, obviously. But just because it failed twice doesn't mean that's not the right approach. That's the perfect approach in this modern NFL, if you ask me. It's a top-down approach where everyone's on the same clock. Everyone was all hired at the same time. Everyone's on the same page, and everyone's rowing in the same direction. Synergy. Instead of this, we're going to keep Mike, fire the GM. Then we're going to, fire Mike. There's no synergy. And that's how you go 25 years without winning a playoff game. There's never any synergy. They need synergy, and that's the top-down approach. I hope they do. I think Troy would be perfect for the job. That's not what he's here for. Again, to be clear, consultant on the general manager search, and once it's done, Troy's gone. And that's fine, because I like that. This morning on WFAN, Boomer Esiason, who, again, he's in New York City. He just knows these guys and sort of knows them. And he shared his thoughts on this news of Troy Aikman being hired as a consultant. And, he says these guys have egos, meaning of Troy and Dan. And he wonders if, hold on one second. Here, I got multitasking a few things. And he's wondering if those egos will clash in Miami. He's like, well, if you already have Marino there, why would you bring in Troy? And I get what he's saying, Boomer, but I don't think that'll be the case. Here's the deal. Marino doesn't travel. He doesn't travel each week. He doesn't travel around the league. He's not talking to other teams. He's not in the buildings of other teams. He isn't as tied in around the league like Troy Aikman is. Troy Aikman, again, for all the reasons I said, each week in a new town, visiting with a new team, shaking hands, talking to people in front offices, talking to coaches, talking to players, is a wealth of knowledge here that Dan doesn't have. And I think Dan would know that and kind of, he understands what's going on here. So I understand what he's saying here, Boomer. I just don't think that's not the case. I think and plus, they're older men. At some point, those egos do go away. They each are living a nice life here. No one's going hungry here. The Brandon Shore aspect is very interesting to me. Last night on the NFL Network, there was a Cameron Wolf report saying that the Miami Dolphins Senior Vice President of Football and Business Administration, Brandon Shore, will be quarterbacking the GM search. He's the point guy. He's the one who's going to be running this. Now, here's what's interesting. It's 11:15 a.m. on Friday. Since that came out last night, Cameron Wolf has taken down that tweet, taken down that video. And just moments ago, Barry Jackson, the Miami Herald, put out a tweet saying that Stephen Ross is leading the GM search and nobody else. I think Cameron Wolf reported the truth, probably got his hand slapped by the Dolphins and removed the video from social media. So it's not out there anymore. But it makes sense that Brandon Shore is leading this. I don't care that the Miami Dolphins messaging is that Stephen Ross is in charge. Stephen Ross doesn't know any of these people. Brandon Shore is running this GM search, and he probably is quarterbacking the GM search. So they can take down the video all they want. I believe what Cameron Wolf reported last night on the NFL Network. And it makes sense that Shore is leading this. Since the GM will be sharing the duties with Brandon Shore in this role. Again, from that CBS Jonathan Jones report a few weeks ago, last month, it seemed like it was on point with everything, and it's on point with what Cameron Wolf kind of reported last night. Shore should be in charge of finding someone that he will work so closely with. He should be leading the interviews with Troy and Dan and Tom and Stephen Ross. He should be the point guy. So, and I wouldn't be shocked if Shore had the idea to bring in Troy Aikman or someone like Troy Aikman as a consultant, because Shore knows he doesn't have the football background and Greer isn't there to lean on. So he needs someone with a football mind who has deep connections around the league. Miami's building down there at Miami Gardens is void of that. They needed someone like Troy. Champ Kelly's up for the job. You can't ask him for help. That's not fair. Plus, he's never been hired as a GM before. He's only been the interim GM twice. It's different. The Dolphins need a football guy to be part of the process, and Troy Aikman brings that. And I saw some fans on social media and such. Some reached out to me like, why Brandon Shore have all this power? Why is he so involved? All I'm going to say is this. In the past year to 15 months, Brandon Shore was against giving the contract extension to Tua. Brandon Shore was against reworking Tyreek Hill's contract to pay him a little bit more to to make him happy. And Brandon Shore was against reworking Jalen Ramsey's contract too. Pretty much Brandon Shore was the opposite of Chris Greer on everything, and he's been proven right. So maybe listen to Brandon Shore more. I'm not saying Brandon Shore walks on water. I'm not saying Brandon Shore should be a full-time GM with all the power. I'm just saying this guy seems to have been right on a lot of shit the past 12 to 15 months. Maybe listen to him. So I have no problem that he is leading this general manager search. And I don't care what the Dolphins put out there today to sort of clean this up. Mr. Ross is leading the search. Whatever. If you want to believe that, believe it. I don't believe it for a second. That's what you call in the business spin. Okay, spin. So I have no problem with Brandon Short leading this. Kind of sort of just to wrap up here in closing, a couple things. I don't know if the Miami Dolphins will get this general manager hire right. We don't know. You can have the best of intentions and still hire the wrong guy. Just like the draft. You got the best intentions, but you draft the wrong guy. But I'll say this. If you're a fan of the Dolphins today, and if you're watching this, you're probably a fan of the Dolphins. You should be at least have some optimism and a little bit of excitement that at least Miami's trying something different. They're not same old, same old. They're not going to just go with the same approach that they have for all these years that just doesn't work. So if you're a fan, you got to have a little bit of an open mind. You got to have a little bit of optimism here. Now, look, they still might screw it up. But I will give them the benefit of the doubt, at least right now, early on in this process, that they're trying something outside the box. They brought in someone from the outside, and they're going to, listen to him. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to, whatever he says, Troy, that they're going to do. But at least it's not the same old, same old, same old. They brought in someone who has no ties to the Miami Dolphins, Ross, Tom Garfinkel, and Brandon Shore. Troy might make a recommendation, and they might ignore it. They might. But at least Troy's part of the process, and will bring in new thoughts, new ideas, and have a fresh perspective. Let me say this, though. With Miami now hiring Troy as a consultant, if the end result is they promote Champ Kelly to full-time GM and they keep Mike McDaniel as head coach, then this was nothing more than a dog and pony show and not a serious search for a new GM. They would have just used Troy as a prop to give off the perception that they did a full search and they brought an outside candidate to help and that they were looking for the best candidate. If they just promote Champ Kelly and keep Mike McDaniel, this is nothing more than a dog and pony show. And I'll be on here in a week or two screaming at the top of my lungs that this was a dog and pony show and this is not a serious organization. I'm sorry. You can't do that. Now, if they meet with all these people and they hire Champ, but then they fire Mike, that's totally different. Okay, Champ Kelly truly was the best guy for the job, but we're still going to move on from Mike and find a new head coach. I can live with that on some level. But if they just promote Champ and keep Mike, this was a joke. This was a farce. So I hope that's not the case. I don't even want to head down that road right now because I'm feeling optimism. I'm feeling positive vibes. I got good vibes here on this January 2nd, this Friday, that Miami might be doing the right thing. But just know that if that's the end result, I'm going to be screaming on this podcast in about 10 to 14 days or so. I have not, trust me, that thought has crossed my mind. We have a super chat here from our good friend Patrick Mullen. Again, super chats are open. Best way to support our channel, support the site. Patrick Mullen, thank you again for the super chat. Mike, in your opinion, what factions are leaking right now and who are they leaking to? Well, I think with the whole thing with Cameron Wolf, clearly Brandon Shore is probably leaked to Cameron Wolf, and just a guess, I don't know. And that's why that tweet's down. That's why that video's down. They didn't want that out there, so they cleaned that up. So I think, that Wolf probably got that from there. Obviously, Mike McDaniel's camp is leaking a ton of stuff. And for the past few months, Stephen Ross loves Mike. He wants to give him every chance to stay. That's coming from McDaniel and his agent. Because it makes no sense you fire the general manager on Halloween. Well, Mike's in a great shape. The team stunk. And they still stink because they're not going to finish over 500 and they're going to miss the playoffs again. So I think Mike and his team are leaking a bunch of stuff. Other than that, I don't think Ross is leaking anything. I don't think he knows how to play that game. Troy's not going to leak anything. Marino's not leaking anything. And I don't think Tom could be leaking stuff, but I doubt it. Well, here's the deal with Tom Garfinkel. He's got it made, folks. He's got the best job in America. Makes a lot of money, and his hands are clean when it comes to firing coaches, hiring coaches. He has insulated himself, kind of like Chris Greer. Like, hey, I'm just doing what the head coach wants. I'm giving the head coach what he wants. Tom's kind of in his role, which is not even a football. So I do think probably Shore leaked something, and I would say Mike McDaniel's side is leaking stuff. I think that's about it, though. I think usually it's just like one or two people. That's kind of what I'm thinking here. I don't think this like everyone's talking in Miami because I don't think they're actually smart. Well, let's not go down that road. So yeah, thank you, Patrick, again for the super chat. One thing here. Oh, lost my little notes. Let me open my notes. The things I want to talk about. My notes. One last thing on Troy. Just more of a fun fact. People forget, or some of the younger fans might not know, that Troy Aikman almost was a Miami Dolphins quarterback in 2003. Wadstat was head coach of the Dolphins, and he needed a quarterback in Miami. Troy was retired, so he called Troy and goes, hey, why don't you come out of retirement and be the Miami Dolphins quarterback? Troy did consider it, but he decided to remain retired because he had a lot of concussions and health reasons, so he didn't want to come back and play. But he was almost a Dolphins quarterback. Almost might be strong, but there was conversations of Troy coming to Miami to play in 2003 under Dave Wannstedt because he knew Wannstedt. He knew Norv Turner from his time with the Cowboys. He would have felt comfortable here. That's why he did consider it, but he goes, you know what? Health is more important, and he made enough money. Again, money's not an issue. He's got a comfortable life. He didn't need to put his body on the line. So just a little fun fact for those of you who might not have known that this isn't Troy's first time here with the Dolphins, so to speak a bit. All right. And when we have more news on this and all that stuff, we'll have shows up and we will be all over this as well. Because again, they play Sunday. The Mike McDaniel news, if there's any news on McDaniel, I'm guessing it'll be Monday morning, probably 7, 8 o'clock Monday morning. And I will, as soon as that news breaks on Monday, I'm going to be live on here. So 8 a.m., 7 a.m., I'll pop on. If he's let go and fired, we'll talk about it. If they keep him, we'll talk about it too. So on Monday, I know there's some people saying don't announce anything on Monday. Wait, and they could. They absolutely could. But I still think something's going to get announced on Monday, whether he's staying or going. I think you don't want to leave the guy in limbo. It's not healthy either. I think this whole notion of, well, let's take a week or two, hire a general manager and let him decide on Mike. It's like, first off, no one's going to want him. I mean, it's like, what do you do for 2 weeks? Shut down as an organization? Mike, don't show up for work. We don't know if you're going to have a job tomorrow. Just stay home. You can't do that. That's and it's not fair to the entire staff as well, who if he is let go, might be looking for jobs elsewhere. I think you have to make a call on Mike Monday, and then when you're in your general manager search, you let him know Mike's here. You have to work with him, or Mike's gone. You're going to be part of the process of finding us a next head coach. I think you have to make that call Monday. You can't just let this linger. I just think that's really a sign of total dysfunction, honestly. All right, before I get to my little preview here, the Patriots-Dolphins games, which will be little and quick. Shout out to everyone who's watching us over at finheaven.com. Everyone go to finheaven.com, largest Miami Dolphins message board on the internet. Also, wherever you're listening to this podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Podchaser, YouTube, of course. Subscribe. Once we get to the off season, look, folks, we've been doing this for over 10 years. We're going to have you covered like no one else. We will have shows, I don't want to say every day, but damn near every day when news breaks, we're going to come in with shows. You don't want to miss an episode. Any news, any rumor out there, any breaking news, we're going to cover it and break it down. And if you follow our, I know we're not the most popular podcast out there because we shoot straight. And sometimes when you shoot straight, you got to say things that, aren't glowing about the Miami Dolphins. And that's fine. We might not be everyone's cup of tea, but if you want honest and objective commentary on the Dolphins, we're the podcast for you. We're not going to pee on your leg and tell you it's raining. We're not going to tell you everything's sunshine and rainbows because guess what? It's not all sunshine and rainbows. We're going to tell you straight. And I know some people can't handle that. They get all in their feelings, but we're going to shoot straight at you and give you the best commentary that there is. This is what we do. It's what we've been doing for over 10 years, and we will continue to do. So make sure you are subscribed. And again, I'm about to talk about the Patriots-Dolphins game. Put your predictions here in the comments. And also, super chats are open here. Like Patrick just sent one in. You send in a super chat, and I will address that about anything you want about this weekend's game, something with Troy Aikman, or something about the head coach, Mike McDaniel. Super chat on any topic. Send it in, and I will read it on the air. All right, let's get to this week's game. I'm not going to do a big preview because it's a meaningless game for Miami. It's a preseason game, and is what it is. But we will do this.
It's now time for Mike's Fearless Prediction.
All right. The Miami Dolphins travel to Foxborough to play the New England Patriots, Gillette Stadium, at 4:25 p.m. this Sunday on Fox. That's right, the game is on Fox. Joe Davis and Greg Olsen will be on the call. The Miami Dolphins' miserable 2025 season will end in the freezing cold of Foxborough on Sunday, playing a Patriots team that's fighting to be the number 1 seed in the AFC. I feel like we've seen this play out 100 times in the past 30 years or so, but here we are again. In Quinn we trust? Well, maybe. But Quinn Ewers will face his toughest test to date on the road, in the cold, and the wind versus a very good team. A big game by Quinn Ewers here and a win by the Dolphins will be a huge statement from him that he should be the Miami Dolphins starting quarterback in 2026. Can he do that, though? I don't know. The Patriots, though, come in at 13-3. With Drake May looking to lock up the NFL MVP award. Did you know Drake May has thrown for over 4,200 yards this year? Did you know Drake May has thrown for 30 touchdowns and only 8 interceptions this year? And it's not like he has a bunch of great wide receivers around him. Drake May has been absolutely sensational this year. Okay. I don't know if Jordan Brooks will play. I'm pretty sure Minkah Fitzpatrick won't play, but I'm not sure it will matter. I don't expect a total blowout. I think Miami will keep it close for like a half, but at the end of the day, the Patriots will get their win. I don't know if they're going to be a 1 seed or not, but they're going to win this game. Give me New England 27, Miami 10. I think the Patriots win, and the Miami Dolphins in the year, 7-10, I guess then. And yeah, that's my thought on this week's game. Again, if Quinn Ewers can find a way to win this game, even if they don't win, but he plays great and they lose, on a last-second field goal, 24-23, I think that'd be a huge statement for Quinn Ewers. Say, hey, look, I should be the starting quarterback next year. Stop your search, guys. Find me a backup. I can be your QB1. A big performance on the road, in the cold, in all the weather elements, right? In all the weather elements. If he goes out there and plays a good game, if they win, great. But even if they keep it close, that's a big statement from Quinn Ewers. Big statement. So, again, I don't really care if they win or not. I'm not worried about the draft pick and all that stuff. But, I think this is a big game for Quinn Ewers more than anything else. That's really what I'm going to be focused on here as well. I want to read this comment here in our chat here. Where is Marissa Marino? Marissa's taken off the month of December or so. She'll be back, although some people don't. Marissa's going to be back before you know it. Once they were sort of out of the playoffs, there was kind of less of a need to meet with opposing teams' reporters each week. She works very hard for us, and she's she's a great asset to our team. And I spoke to her yesterday on the phone. She's just enjoying some time off here around the holidays. People forget we do this year round, and this is not a full-time job for all of us. So she'll be back, Marissa. Don't worry. And she does a lot of stuff behind the scenes with us as well that people don't see and people don't know about. Marissa is an invaluable part of our team. Phil here. Marissa is awesome. You're damn right Marissa is awesome. She's the best. And she does a lot of stuff behind the scenes that people don't know about. She does a ton of stuff on air with us. But, she can take a month off. Just take a month off. It's okay. And she'll be back before you know it. So we love Marissa here and so happy that she's part of our little team. Some picks here. Not the last week, because I'll probably do picks in the playoffs as well. 2 locks and an upset, as I've done every week. The first lock, give me the Buffalo Bills, -7 over the Jets. I don't care if Josh Allen plays or not. The Jets have absolutely quit, and they're an embarrassment. The Bills' final home game, I still call it Ralph Wilson Stadium. I think there's going to be a lot of emotion in the building. I think Josh Allen will play a little bit because it is the final home game there. I think the Bills are going to absolutely just stomp over the New York Jets. The other one, give me the LA Rams -7 over Arizona. Arizona is another team that's kind of quit. I think their head coach is in trouble. I think the Rams are look, they might come in third in the NFC West. That's a team I still think can make the Super Bowl and win a Super Bowl. I like the Rams a lot. So Rams -7 over Arizona, Bills -7 over the Jets, and an upset. Give me this. Give me San Francisco plus a point and a half over Seattle. I love San Francisco and what they've done this year. I think Seattle's good, but give me San Francisco here plus a point and a half is my upset this week. So Bills -7, Rams -7, San Francisco plus a point and a half as my upset. All right, so that's all for today's show on this Friday. I figured let's get this one out of the way early, and so everyone can enjoy their Friday and their weekend. Tomorrow, Saturday, we will drop a Dolphins Talk matchup with Robert Burns and Eric. So be on the lookout for that. And of course, on Sunday, post-game wrap-up show, myself and Tom right when the game ends. And then after that, Monday, if there's news Monday, I will pop on live at whatever time is needed. So everyone, have a great rest of your Friday. We'll talk to you again after a while. And when you're out in the roads, please don't forget that we must put an end to highway profanity.